Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. Thank you, as always, for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to spend it here in the spirit of community, mentorship, and learning. I'm your host, Dave Nava. I'm a lead solution engineer at Salesforce and a military trailblazer. Each week, we invite a co-host or sometimes co-host to take part in the conversation so that we can leverage their experience, their expertise, and their unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session is exploring the demo architect career path. So if you've ever wondered what a demo architect does, where they fit in the creative process, or how to get started with becoming one, this is the session for you. And I'd like to welcome and briefly introduce our co-host for tonight's session, Jade Leong. Jade is a lead demo architect at Salesforce. She's also a 10-time certified 11-time Ranger, the host of Military Trailblazer Office Hours on Monday nights, a Dreamforce 2022 speaker, I know because I was speaking right there with her, and an Army veteran. It is awesome to have you here, Jade. Welcome. All right. Well, hey, Jade, do you want to tell a bit of your story for the folks that may not know you before we get started?
So I can just start off with how I got into the Salesforce ecosystem. So if you think back to 2007, it was a long time ago. I actually got a job offer in a public bathroom. I don't recommend it. It just happened to be a company that worked across the hall from us, and this was an office building, so bathrooms were a common place to meet. So I met this woman who, worked across the hall, and one day, after finding out what I did and what she did, she just asked me, "Hey, do you want to come work for us?" And of course, I said yes. I probably should ask more questions. But then she's like, "Great, we bought one Salesforce license." And I was like, "Great, what is Salesforce?" So basically the problem they were having is it was a small startup company, and all of the customer service support calls were going to the vice president's voicemail, and his voice mailbox was full. So that's why they needed to implement a CRM system. And I happened to work at a company where we developed our own CRM system. And I was working customer support and also quality assurance. So they just asked me if I could help out. And of course, I'm like, yes. So I implemented Salesforce. It was so easy back then. We can just call it Salesforce Lite, if you will, because this was 2007. There were no clouds. It was just called Salesforce. So after about a year of implementing everything, I did everything. I did escalations. There was leads in there, contacts. There was a partner portal. There was so much of everything. But obviously, we don't have the complicated security we have today. So then I got bored, and then I decided to go implement somewhere else, but there were no Salesforce jobs per se at the time. So I went and I implemented Oracle CRM. So I did a lot of things in my career, but then let me just fast forward to 2017, where I'm thinking, what should I do now with my career? Let me just Google that small company called Salesforce. And that's when I realized I should have bought stock. I could have been rich. There was Dreamforce, there was certifications. I don't know how I missed, all the happenings of the Salesforce world, but somehow I wasn't even in tune to that. So in 2017, I knew I had to get back into the Salesforce ecosystem. So I didn't know anyone. I definitely didn't know about Salesforce Military. I don't even know when that started. I didn't know about Trailhead. So I did what I always do. I paid for a class. So it was a 5-day class offered by a third-party trainer. And it was a Salesforce admin class. And it cost $4,500. So I had to have a real conversation with my spouse and say, "Hey, you know how when you play poker and you have all your chips and you just push all the chips into the middle of the table? Do you think I can do that with $4,500 of our savings?" So definitely took a big risk in taking this 5-day class. It definitely cost a lot of money, but I think it was well worth it. Luckily, it all worked out. But I can tell you the first 15 minutes of class was so stressful for me because my phone was ringing off the hook. So I had to go take this phone call in the hallway because who's calling me? Who keeps calling me? Why are these different numbers calling me? So the first phone number was for my credit card company. And they were like, "Hey, there's someone trying to charge $4,500 on your credit card." I'm like, no, put it through. It's me. Just put it through. I meant to do that. And then the second phone call was the training company. And they're like, Jade, you're not allowed to be in that class. You didn't pay for it. I'm like, I'm trying, because who pays $4,500 for a class, right? So that was me. So at the time, there was only 30 days that I had with this training org. And then I don't have Salesforce anymore. So I didn't know about Trailhead. I think it was just maybe starting up at the time. So I had a 30-day window to learn Salesforce and try to pass this exam. And what's worse is everyone in the class already had a Salesforce job, like they were in it. Their company just sent them to take the class. So no one was paying attention. No one was taking notes. I was vigorously like taking notes like crazy. And then they asked who was going to take the certification exam. So of course I shot up my hand, but no one else was going to take it. So luckily everything worked out. I passed the exam, and I think I leveraged my first experience from 10 years prior on my resume, and that's how I landed back into the Salesforce ecosystem, working at another startup. So that's my story on how I got into the Salesforce ecosystem. So I'm going to tell you another story about David Nava, since we're here, on how I met him. So I was working in Boston Monday through Friday. So I either took the train, which takes, over an hour to get in and over an hour to get home, or I white knuckle drive it. Either way, Boston is far because I live in the burbs. So I heard of Salesforce Saturday. Again, I don't know anyone in the Salesforce ecosystem, but I heard about it for a while, and I thought, well, maybe one of these days I should check it out. And I just kept pushing it out because Monday through Friday I'm in Boston. Like, do I really want to go into Boston on a Saturday? Finally, I'm like, I should really do it to meet people and try to learn from someone else. So I did. And I met David Nava there. But prior to meeting him, I think it must have been the day before, maybe a Friday or maybe a Thursday, I got a LinkedIn request from David Nava. I'm like, no, reject, nope. So I did not want to connect with him just because at the time I had no social media game at all. I had 235 connections, and I think I might have been on LinkedIn for like 10 years. I didn't connect with anyone. I didn't really comment on anything. I think the only people I connected with are the few people I met at conferences. That's the only thing I did on LinkedIn, just connect, never liked, never read anything, never did anything. So then I was panicked after meeting him because I rejected his request and did not accept it. So then I was, scrolling through my phone trying to find his name because I was confused about whether it's David Scott or David Scott Nava, like I couldn't find it. And then the woman next to me, Mary Mendoza, was like, give me your phone. So she takes my phone, finds David for me, and just gives me back my phone so I could connect with them. So thank you, David, for connecting with me, or else I wouldn't be here where I am today without that connection. So that's my two stories.
It's a funny story. I was getting stressed just listening to your transition story. I didn't even go through it.
Yeah. And I actually found out about Maravis because, here's this guy, he's almost transitioned, he's going to transition. And he was talking about Maravis and how great it was and how you get a week in Texas. And I just didn't think it applied to me because I'm a veteran, but from like a while ago, I thought it was just for new transitioning veterans. But like one day, I think I saw something about a Maravis program, and I asked Amy Harris if I could apply because I'm a veteran from like a long time ago. And she basically said, you're a veteran, you're always a veteran. Yes, you can apply. So that's how I got connected with Maravis. And Salesforce Military is another story, and that involves Genly, but I stumbled upon that as well.
I'm going to throw the link to Maravis in the chat for those folks that may not be aware of what it is. Essentially, it's a nonprofit that's in the Salesforce education space that provides free education and training for anyone in the military community. And you can use your Salesforce military vouchers with them, and they're a fantastic organization. We actually have mentors on the phone with them, including Elio down there in the bottom of my screen. We will we'll go ahead and cover some admin items. So I see some folks are joining for the first time, which is awesome. And whenever folks join for the first time, I always like to kind of talk about, the purpose of these office hours, just so we're all on the same page before we open the floor for questions and discussion. So these are an informal get-together for gathering with both military trailblazers and allies. Everyone is welcome to explore non-technical Salesforce career and branding related topics. So ultimately, we all can help each other achieve our professional development and career related goals. So for this next hour, this is your opportunity to speak up, step up, and help ask and answer questions from your perspective, which will provide a wealth of experience to the answers that are given. Do keep an eye on the chat window during tonight's session. As you can probably tell, we do a lot of posting there, both myself and everyone here in the session. I usually post knowledge articles, things from LinkedIn, Salesforce, Ben, employment opportunities. Feel free to post your LinkedIn profiles if you'd like. That way we can all connect and we can be branding. And then if you want to ask a question at any point during tonight's session, this is your session, so please feel free to do so. If you don't feel comfortable speaking up, no worries, just post it in chat and I will do my best to look for the hands raised in the app and also be looking for raised hands. I'm sorry, I'll also be looking for comments in chat. And then finally, before we kick it off here, tonight's session is being recorded. So if you want to share something, but you don't really want it in the recording, just let me know beforehand. And with that heads up, I can go ahead and make sure it's edited out of the final recording. So with that, we will go ahead and kick it off. And I want to open because one of the reasons why I scheduled this session was because you got hired, Jade, as a demo architect. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I have no idea what that is. And so I was like, I need to invite Jade on the show. So selfishly, I can figure out, what that is and if I'm interested, but also it benefits all of you because I think it's a really interesting topic. So could you explain kind of what a demo architect is, what they do with respect to day-to-day responsibilities and the type of activities that you engage in?
Yeah, so can I share my screen? I have a PowerPoint with just a few slides, but I figure I've been on meetings all day, so maybe it's just easier if I just showed you. Okay, awesome. So I don't know how much you've done in Trailhead, but let me just start here. So maybe you've dabbled in a dev org, or maybe you've done CRM analytics. Maybe you've downloaded a free trial of Quip as an example. Maybe you've taken more Trailhead and you've actually looked into industries. So if you want to see where I'm pulling all this information from, it's developer.salesforce.com/free-trials. And that's where, like, in all one place, you can get all of the trials for everything. But if not, you can also find these in Trailhead. So sometimes there are Trailheads for, Health Cloud. I specifically work in Manufacturing Cloud. So the reason I'm bringing this up is, have you ever thought about like what happens when you say, okay, spin me up a financial services cloud or manufacturing cloud? Probably not, because as much as I've done a lot of badges in Trailhead, it never even occurred to me, like, what is the process? Like, how do they have these things and how does this work? So that's why I thought I would start here. Because a lot of you are learning Salesforce, still learning Salesforce like me, and it gives a good perspective of what I do. So my job description at the time, so I've been at Salesforce for a year now, my job description at the time was you needed 3 certifications: an admin, advanced admin, and platform app builder. You also need industry experience. So I'm the industry demo architect, so manufacturing is my industry. But there are other demo architects in other industries like consumer goods or fins or financial services. So there's a lot. Pre-sales, that's kind of a wide, umbrella term. Pre-sales is, I'm sure we sell almost at every job we're at, right? So it doesn't matter if you're in customer support or CSG, you're kind of sort of selling something. So I think that's kind of like a broad category. So I also think that there's other experiences, it's not one size fits all. There's other experiences that could help you in this role. I know that every experience I've ever had probably helps me in this role. I've been an admin, I've been a consultant, project management. I've had to teach as a job, definitely quality assurance, and just talking to stakeholders. I think at every job you'll run into stakeholders. If you're at a smaller company, you'll definitely run into stakeholders sooner than later. Sometimes at bigger companies, it's hard to run into like C-level executives, as an example. You definitely need some kind of technical aptitude, at least some type of understanding. Probably not, you don't need to know code, but it can't hurt you, but you just don't need to know code. But you probably need to know like basic concepts of like what a data model is, integration, implementation, and just how data migration works. Definitely, because this is Salesforce, there's a lot of different teams. So if you have experience in working in cross-functional teams, that will definitely help you. Goal-oriented, there's lots of different goals to try to achieve during a quarter, during a month, during a year. So you just have to prioritize because everything is fast-paced. There's 3 releases a year. So these are like the types of skills that you need for the job. So I'm just gonna cut to the chase right here. FAQs, I get these all the time. So how do you prep for demos? What tips do you have for demos? Well, I don't demo, so I know it's like a misnomer, but I kind of sort of don't demo. So how do you architect the demo and like what is that process like? Well, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with the word architect because architect is also a very broad term used in many different places. But what I can tell you my job does as a demo architect in manufacturing is that I help with the demo assets. So my main customer is solution engineers like Jade, right? So he's a solution engineer. So they are my customers. I am not really customer facing at all. Not like Elio, who's CSG. I am internal, but my customers are SE. So SEs need to show customers demos, right? So do you expect SEs to spin up a blank, dev org every time and populate it? No, we want, all the bells and whistles in every org you spun up, just like one of the first slides I showed you, right? You go to Trailhead, just click this button and a magical org just, spins up. So the manufacturing org is decked out, tricked out with all kinds of features, right? So that every SE doesn't have to configure the same thing over and over and over. So we save them time in this respect. So there's assets that I have to maintain that I'm in charge of. For example, demo scripts, right? Like a demo guide on how this demo should go. Sometimes looking at a blank screen, you don't actually know what to say on the screen, but there's like a flow to it. First you start off with a home page and you talk about the dashboard and the value of that, and then you drill into the other features. There could be some enablement videos that I help maintain and some how-to guides as well. And another part of this job is to troubleshoot. So let's say an SE, a solution engineer, spins up something and it doesn't work, you get an error, something happens, you have to have a troubleshooting mindset. Like, are you on VPN? Just simple basic questions. What are you trying to do? Give me your steps. When did this start happening? Can you try another one? All of these things. Because I've worked in customer support in the past, I feel like this comes kind of naturally for me. In partnerships. So Salesforce is a big company. You have to partner with other teams and other groups. So this is the majority of my role, I would say, but there's many other things that I do. But if I were to give you an elevator pitch, it would be this slide right here. So I think that's all I have to say about that. I guess I'll just wait for questions.
No, I appreciate the clarification. And for those folks that aren't in pre-sales, Jade's spot on. It's really about speed because you have potentially, if you're a solution engineer, multiple different account executives asking you for demos across a broad variety of use cases, depending on your specialty. And so you have to provide these demos as fast as you can. And Jade's correct. You just simply don't have time to build them from scratch. Sometimes we do because there's no other alternative in some cases, but we have a whole host of the pre-built orgs that Jay was referring to, which saves a ton of time. So I can literally just go in, pull up a script, a generic script, pull up an org, maybe create some custom objects, tailor it a bit, and then enter some customer information to make the script unique for that particular demo. And then that cuts the time in half, sometimes even more than that. So huge resource. So thank you, Jade. I've definitely used standard demo orgs and industry demo orgs for my stuff, as well as the scripts.
Yeah, and I would have to say that, not everything, I can't package everything in the world into this demo, right? Because it would take a long time to spin up and it would just be so bloated that it'll take you forever to navigate from one scene to the next. So we have to figure out like what's the most valuable things to put in there. And not everything will work on spin up. So there's some things like, for example, um, any Outlook mail integration you have, like that just can't work. It needs to be configured to whatever mail account you have. Things like Einstein bots, right? So after you spin it up, the solution engineer has to configure that a little bit. Like not everything is spin and go, but it still saves a lot of time. So those are the types of assets and instructions that I have to maintain and tweak because there are so many changes. So, because of all the products we have, it's a challenge to keep updated with everything and also to keep the most relevant information in there and then remove the things that no longer apply.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of maintenance. So now that you've been in the role for, I think I might have heard a hand go up. I did. Carrie, I'll hold my question and give you headline privileges. Question or comment from you?
Yes, I was going to ask so I just sat through my first architecture review board. It's exciting and a little scary all at the same time. But so just from hearing you talk, it sounds like that's one of your projects, one of the big thing that you would do. So a couple things on that. One, how many people, are you the only architect sitting on that board in your situation, or are there multiple? And then another piece, I know that you're not the one building these solutions and that stuff, but I myself am looking for a tool for the data modeling side of things. So if you have any suggestions in that from things that you've seen other people use, I would be very happy to hear about that.
So data modeling tools. Are you talking about like Lucidchart or some other thing? Because there's a lot of out-of-the-box data models that's already there for you. You can just download it and tweak it.
Okay, I'll have to play around with that for sure. And I'm just starting to use Lucidcharts a little bit. So, but I'm always curious, like what other folks have used out there. So, I'll peek at some of the out of the box stuff too.
Yeah, so I can find the website for you unless you have it handy, David. But like the data model is there, and all you do is click this button, and then it opens up Lucidchart with all of the Salesforce icons there. So I think that's like quick and easy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think they've also expanded that to use more than Lucidchart. I want to say Miro. I can't remember if it was Miro or another app. But I would definitely start there from what's out of the box and standard. And to address your other question, Carrie, you're right. Like I do not have the depth and breadth of knowledge of every single Salesforce product, so that I simply don't have that. So what we do is we get help from other people, other SEs who specialize in, for example, Experience Cloud or Revenue Cloud. We get them to help us build things in the manufacturing org.
Thank you.
We've got a great question, Carrie. We got a couple of questions in chat. One from Iris and then one from Kai. We'll get with Iris's first. And Iris asks, it sounds like the role is built around a storytelling aspect. Is that right?
Yes, storytelling is huge at Salesforce. I think you can, I think everyone probably can agree on that one. You can't just show like, here's a case. Here's how you create a case. You click the new button to open a new case. Like that doesn't really help anyone. What you have to figure out is like, what are some of their pain points and what is the story you can tell to weave all that in, right? You want to create a vision. Just like with anything, storytelling is huge. That's where the demo guides and demo scripts come from. That tells a story of all the features. Granted, the solution engineers don't have to use demo guides or demo scripts, but it's a resource that they can use. They can go off the rails if they want. But it's just there as a resource, and that's something that I would maintain. And I think, Carrie, you had another question. I think I just remembered another part of Carrie's question that she had asked. How many people are there? So I work with another demo architect in Manufacturing Cloud. So there's a lot of industries. So I guess there's like one or two per industry, but that number just keeps growing because we just keep having new industries. So I would say I can't even count right now, but however many industries there are, that's how many there are.
There's a lot. I think we just added automotive, and
Yeah.
I know I just did a trailhead on communications cloud and media cloud, so quite a few.
Yeah.
To your earlier point about the scripts, I mean, it really does come down to whoever's giving the demo their personal preference, because I've seen some folks that will look at the script for context and then just kind of talk, and they've been doing it so long that it just kind of flows and they have all those value propositions memorized. My scripts are anywhere from 16 to 40 pages. And because part of my process is I will write out everything I'm going to say and do. And in doing that, it helps me learn the demo. And then for the most part, I'll use it, maybe not word for word, but I'll definitely follow along. But that's just my style. And I would just say if you're creating demos, everything you're doing in a demo should have a reason, right? If it's not tied to a value proposition, you shouldn't be showing it in a demo because you're just wasting your time and the customer's time. It's all got to be. I mean, it's easy to have a very long demo. It's super easy. It is very hard to have a short, focused demo that conveys value. And I've spent the most time creating shorter demos than I have longer demos. Just kind of funny that way. So we've got a couple questions here. We'll go to Kai, and then Brian has a question. Kai asks, do you gather business requirements during the demo session? So kind of, can you talk about your requirements gathering techniques and where and how that happens?
Oh, that's really a great question. Like I said, there's a lot of cross-functional teams, and what happens is, there's three releases a year, so we want to try to get the newer features in, because obviously they are new features for a reason, right? So it's adding value somewhere, so we definitely want to try to get those in. There's also, suggestions from leadership. There's also suggestions from solution engineers in the field of what they want. So we have a big list of all kinds of wants and needs and enhancements and, bugs, and, there's only so much time. So we have to prioritize which ones we want to get in the manufacturing demo org. So it's just really a balancing act. And it's a lot of conversations. We have a lot of conversations around this, say you want thing A in the demo org, right? Okay, so thing A, how many hours will it require from an SE? How easy it is to do? What is the benefit? Like, you have to take everything into account. So we don't have like one person saying, this is what we need. There's not one person I can add that says, what do you need? It's just, we have like a council. So we go around and, ask everyone, what's important to you? What's important to you? What are important to you guys? And then we try to decide what's the most important thing to include like right now, because there's always going to be another, a future build, right? So can this be pushed to the next one? So it's definitely lots of conversations, lots of juggling, lots of prioritization. So sometimes they would have to come to us with what they want. I am not in the field. I am not in touch with customers. So the requirements basically comes from them. I just have to make sure that nothing breaks. If they want something off the wall, you're like, whoa, we can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. Or if they want something that we already have, it's my job to know what we already have so that we're not duplicating anything. So I don't really know if requirements gathering is the correct term. I'm more project management, I would say.
That's interesting. Yeah. I know Kai has her hand raised. If
Right.
did you want to?
Because thank you for that. Because Salesforce is so huge, and our clients could be a small business, nonprofits, or huge enterprise. So I kind of want to understand, kind of picture like the pre-sale demo, And some requirements could be, like you said, new enhancement, or just say if it's just customized. How do you close the deal? Like, do you do user acceptance tests when you sell the Salesforce? That kind of end-to-end process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that I can answer the question deal for deal because
Right.
I'm not customer facing, but what I can tell you is for the manufacturing org, we want it to be a solution that most cases. Most of the time from what I heard, and David, you can confirm, but solution engineers will tweak that so that it meets their customer needs, so that it makes sense to them. So maybe they will tweak a product name because, chloride solution for, as a product does not make sense to like a Harley type of company. You have to tweak things to match your customer. But we just build, the broad demo, and it's definitely customizable by solution engineers.
Yeah, I'm happy to piggyback on that. So from a solution engineer perspective, there's different types of demos that we give. If the customer is not familiar with Salesforce at all, we have to kind of give them an intro to Salesforce. And so the use case doesn't really matter. They just want to see how it looks, how it functions. What is a SaaS? What does automation look like? What do notifications look like? What about your analytics package? That's a generic demo. It's something that we have laying around, and I can just pick one up and I can give it, right? Because we've built them in the past, and they're usually built off of something that Jade's built. Jade builds these great templates that we then can tweak, to her point. And so for a generic demo, it can be anything. But as we do from a requirements gathering perspective, we'll do discovery with the customer. So we initially meet with them. We say, hey, are you familiar with Salesforce? Here's a quick demo to show what it is. Now that you're familiar and you have context, let's talk about what you do as a business. What are your challenges? What are your pain points? What are your processes? What are your personas, right? Let's pick a persona and pick a process and walk me through that so I can I can understand on your day-to-day, how can Salesforce save you time with process automation or analytics or integrations? And then based upon the discovery that I do, and sometimes it's one session, sometimes it's 4 or 5, I will build a custom demo from one of those templates. And that will be use case specific. So, I've done them for safety management, for onboarding, recruiting civilian or military folks, whole wide range of applications. And that's kind of how we leverage the tools that we're given, and I guess the different use cases for, do we use a generic one or do we use a custom one? Sometimes we don't need to use a custom one because they look at it, our generic demo, it makes sense, and they're ready to buy. So really, Kai, I guess to answer your question, we let the customer guide us. If they want to see more, we'll show them more. If they want to see something specific, we'll show them something specific, and we'll work with them to map out those requirements. And then we usually hand it off to a partner, and based upon what we've built, that will inform the bill of materials and what they end up building for them. Because they'll go, hey, Salesforce did something like this. Can you do that? Yes, we can. Here's what they used. And we'll work with a partner to get that built. We had a couple more demo questions, and I did see Janelle's question, and I wanted to get to that as well. I'm trying to keep up in chat here. So Brian had asked, how many demos do you deliver a month? And he's asking because a 40-page script sounds like a ton of prep time. It is. And he assumed that SEs were doing demos all the time, a few per week. So it depends on, I guess, so for my business unit, the sales cycle is very long. It's usually 1.5 years. And it takes a lot of customer relationship building to get your foot in the door, because I work with the Department of Defense and they're just starting to implement Salesforce. Other business units have a much quicker deal cycle. They'll get more demos. And so in my free time, if I have a unique use case, I will build a demo and I'll write a 40-page script if I have the time, because ultimately my goal, I do a little bit of what Jade does, sort of, is that I will create a demo org and write a script and create all the demo artifacts so that they can use that when they give the demo. Because ultimately I want this thing to be reused. I don't want to spend 80 hours building a demo and have it be set up on the shelf. I want it to be used as much as possible. So it's a good use of my time. And so that script ensures that whether it's a SE that's been on the team for 20 years or SE that's been on the team for 20 days, the script has so much detail that they can pick it up, look at it, go, okay, I got it, and they can give that demo in the same day. And so that's the intent. most SEs don't do that. And I find that it kind of helps out. It's like a team asset. I typically give usually anywhere from 1 to 3 demos a week. It's kind of slow right now, but there's been weeks where I've given 5, and it's not just demoing to customers. Sometimes we'll demo to partners because we want that partner to come and provide that implementation service to the customer. Sometimes it's an internal demo to my AEs to say, hey, here's this cool thing I built. Come take a look at it. Now share that with your customers. Let's get going on some sales. So I want to transition to Janelle's question, then I'm going to go back in chat and pick out the rest of the questions. Janelle asks, hey, Jade, tell us about QBranch. What makes it unique? And so if you could just explain what QBranch is, because I think most folks may not be aware, and then what makes it unique, that would be awesome.
Oh, that was for a reason. So QBranch is the secret organization. Thanks, Janelle. It's, from James Bond. James Bond first referenced QBranch in one of the early videos, early movies they had. I forget which one, but a coworker recently took a snippet of it and said, here's where James Bond said QBranch the first time, because he went through the whole James Bond series and watched them all. So I have to find that for you. But usually when people say QBranch, everyone is really happy when they hear that I work in QBranch. So it's an arm of Salesforce where we do magical special things before Genie came along. So we will help SEs with these demos. So we have a lot of tools in place that will help SEs. For example, let's say you spun up a dev org last year, right? All your opportunity dates are so old. Every date you have is old. Task dates are old. Like every date-driven record in Salesforce is old because your org is old. So we have magical tools that will move like all the dates forward, right? Whatever it is, across all objects, as an example. So QBranch, I can just tell you, it does a lot of special things. I don't know how much I can say about QBranch, but when I was interviewing for this job, I could not find anything on Google related to QBranch. So I think that's for a reason. So I think I don't think I answered your question, Janelle, but we do things. I don't do things, but I know there's other people in QBranch that do like the holodecks and the visionary stuff, and I'm sure they do stuff for Dreamforce. There's like hundreds of people in QBranch. I only work in a small part of QBranch.
It's like a solution engineer enablement factory for all the cool tools, templates, orgs that you'll ever need to use.
And it's not just for SEs. It's for more than just SEs.
It's for partners too.
Yes,
it's for partners.
I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah, we use SDOs as well for some of our engagements.
Awesome. SDO, standard demo org. There's a bunch of different demo orgs, industry demo org, standard demo org. And these are just like Jay was mentioning, pre-configured orgs that QBranch will spin up and create as a template for SEs to build or CSG folks to build demos in. We've got a few more questions from chat. And so question for Jade. You said that SE is your customer. Are you tied to an SE base on a customer market, or are you just on demand when someone needs something demoed? How does that work?
So I don't demo, but I maintain all the demo assets. So I'm tied to manufacturing. So I guess anyone related to manufacturing, but I do not do on-demand demo assets. So I build for the good of the whole, right? So if you have, I don't know, $1 billion deal on the table and you need this one thing, sorry, that's not me. I don't build just for your use case. However, maybe someone in QBranch does. I don't know. But my job is to build manufacturing demo or for the whole, for the good, not individual use cases.
Next question. Jay, do you know if you have demo architect counterparts in the UK, or are you per industry US centric?
We do have coworkers in the UK. It's a big place. I know I've seen people on meetings that are in the UK, but I don't know all of them. We definitely have UK counterparts. If we can go back to the different orgs, so I think SDO was mentioned, so that actually stands for Simple Demo Org. I work in the manufacturing. IDO, which stands for Industry Demo Org. And Iman McRory, who was on previously, he is in charge of the EDO, which is everyone's demo org. So if you have not tried out the EDO, I just posted it in there, and those in that demo org, you will see some of Q Branch magic tools there. There are so many tools, tricks and tips in that demo org. If you spin up Iman's EDO, that is like the go-to.
Yes, Iman is a wizard. If you don't know who he is, we did a session with him earlier in the year, and you can find it on YouTube. Actually, he did a session on how to be an awesome solution engineer. So that's a great one. All right, and I think earlier we had Ashley with a hand raised. Ashley, did you still have a question or comment?
Yes. Hi. I'm wondering how far off into the future we can look for a marketing cloud demo org.
Wow.
Without thinking
I don't know. Yeah, so there is Marketing Cloud demo orgs. I don't know how much of that is customer or partner facing. I don't know if anyone knows, but it's called an auto NTO. I don't know, Elio or Dave, if you've ever heard of that. But it's
I have not used them.
Yeah. I don't know if that's available for partners if you work for a partner, Ashley, but I know there are marketing ones, but there aren't any that you can spin up in Trailhead. So it's not available to like an end user, just because Marketing Cloud is so powerful. You know, Marketing Cloud and Pardot. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for the product folks, but I don't know if they're going to be available, but there are demo orgs for that.
Thank you.
Is anyone on the call a partner at all? I'm just wondering if anyone knows.
Yeah, Jade, I work with a partner, Platinum partner.
Yeah, are you in the PLC? Do you know where to spin up the demo orgs?
I do, but I haven't done it myself.
Yeah. So it would be good if you if you know there's a auto one for Marketing Cloud in there that partners can see.
Right.
All right, we've got about 15 minutes left, so we're going to move on here a little bit to a new topic. So with regard to building and presenting demos, what are some cool things that you learned on the job regarding building or presenting? Because I think regardless of who we have on the call, whether you're an admin, a consultant, your perspective, you know, you're just on Trailhead, if you're interested in the Salesforce ecosystem, you're either going to build, present, or do both. So universal activities. So what are some things that you learned, Jade?
Oh gosh, that there's always more to learn is what I learned. There's always something new that I learned. Gosh, I can't even tell you. Like, just when I think I know something, someone else comes up with something else that's like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So I don't know if anyone's played around with BRE. Has anyone played around with that? Business Rules engine. So anyways, if you hear that in the future, know that it's very powerful. So I think I'm in a good role in that I will always be learning, and I love to learn. So I came into this role thinking that I knew Salesforce. I don't. This role has opened my eyes to like all of the things that are out there. I'm trying to think of like a new thing that I learned. Have you heard of the Rewind tool by any chance? No. I think it's actually in Iman's EDO. So you know how you're practicing for a demo, and you don't want to just keep creating records, or you don't want to ruin your demo. So what you can do is use a rewind tool. So it will rewind back to where it was, instead of you trying to delete records and clean it up and do all these things. It's a way for you to practice. So that's a neat thing that I learned.
Where is that? Because I was spending part of today deleting records that I had created as part of tests for a flow. Where is this awesome tool?
Yeah, I think you should check in the EDO just to try it out. I think we can connect offline. I can tell you where all the goodies are, but I don't know how much of that is exposed to everyone else.
Is the EDO exposed, Jade?
Oh yeah, it's for everyone. You don't have to be a partner.
If you have a link to it that you could put out.
Yeah, I just posted it. I posted
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely take a look at EDO and play with all the cool tools, especially if you're interested in solution engineering or even consulting, right? Because consultants demo all the time. It's just a different style of demo.
Mm-hmm.
And David, I did post a link to the video itself.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that.
Channel.
Yeah. Appreciate it. All right. So Jade, with regard to the career path, where does a demo architect start? Are there more junior roles? And then once you become a demo architect, how does that progression work to the more senior roles? What does that path look like?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So right now I'm a lead demo architect. You could get, into a role and be promoted into a principal demo architect. It's kind of funny because some people who are demo architects become SEs, solution engineers, and sometimes vice versa. Some solution engineers, they enjoy it so much that they want to become a demo architect. So we have people going both ways. So I think the world is your oyster because I've seen people go to like program management or program managers. So I think it all depends on what you want to do in your career. I haven't heard of anyone going to CSG, but I've only been here a year, so they may have people who lateraled over. And if you're into leadership, you can definitely become, people manager, or I don't want to say anything you want, but anything is possible.
If someone wanted to become kind of follow in your footsteps and become a demo architect, what preparation should they start thinking about if they're new to the ecosystem?
That's a great question. So going back to the question of, you've never heard of a demo architect, neither had I. So I was on LinkedIn one day where I saw someone posting about a lead demo architect role at Salesforce. I'm like, I'm just going to apply. And when I read the job description, which I showed in that slide deck, I was like, I can do all of these. So I think if you have some admin experience, maybe a little bit of consulting experience, and just know like the end-to-end process, and maybe how migration or integration or data loading works, I think you'll be a good fit. Like you could start working on those skills. Project management is key because these builds are so complex and you have to work with so many different groups and people. I think project management and organization is key. And the other thing I want to say is I can do it like anyone else can do it too.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel about my role as well.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is, maybe just be helpful. Like if someone needs help, just try to help them. Salesforce, again, is a big company. Everyone's trying to find the right person to help them troubleshoot like an error or how to get something running or how to configure something. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I appreciate that. If you would, could you talk a little bit about the interview process and kind of what the steps were, and because coming from all the different backgrounds that we do, if we haven't been in tech, it can sometimes be challenging to make that transition, translate your skills, and go through kind of an interview process that we're not familiar with. So maybe if you could chat about that and help folks understand how you got through that and any lessons learned.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a good question because I first tried to become a solution engineer, and I got rejected many times. Thank goodness, because I don't think that was the right role for me. So it's the same. I feel it's the same process as interviewing for a solution engineer. There's the recruiter interview, then there's the manager interview, then there are, peers who interview you. And then if you make it past that stage, then it's the panel interview, where you get a demo coach or demo guide to help you with your demo. And then you demo in front of a panel. And then basically you tell your story and present, points to address the problem that they're having. So prior to your actual demo day, you gather requirements from someone. And for me, it was, trying to get requirements from, either an SE or someone who, can sit there and pretend to be the customer. So that's what I did. So I made sure I pointed out all the pain points from when I gathered the requirements on the day of the panel interview. So I think that was the same process, demo architect, as well as the solution engineer. Is that similar to what you did, David?
Yeah, it sounds very similar to what we go through. So I appreciate the clarity there. Can you talk about, I guess, some of the challenges that you face? Like, what are some of the pieces that maybe initially were hard, that you struggled with, and how you overcame those for your role?
So Salesforce is a big company. I thought I knew what a big company was like. I used to work at IBM, so that's a big company. And I'm thinking, Salesforce is just like IBM, huge companies, huge groups, huge squads, whatever you want to call them. But Salesforce is very different. It's a huge company, but there are so many things, so many checkboxes to check off before you can do something, right? You have to check with multiple stakeholders. You have to run it by different people. You have to run things by your manager. So I think one of the biggest challenges for me was just the amount of conversation, communication, meetings that I have. I didn't know it was going to be so complex, and that you have to get a lot of buy-in from everyone. So that was a little unexpected. The other hard parts are, not hard, but what I didn't know was a lot of times there's just a lot of things lost in communication. So sometimes you might have to have the conversation a couple times just to make sure everyone's talking about the same thing. So I think it all boiled down to communication and just clarity on like what the goal and the mission is, because things change fast too. So sometimes we have to pivot.
Yeah, it's an interesting talking about kind of my Salesforce experience. I had to completely change how I approached work when I switched from CSG as a solution consultant to solution engineering. And even though I didn't change companies, the way that we like the work's completely different. The work-life balance is completely different. How you approach learning is completely different. Because as a solution consultant, and this is just my experience, right? I was mostly doing Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Experience Cloud, wash, rinse, repeat. You get a statement of work and you do discovery with the customer. You build user stories. You launch your sprints and you build, and you get into a rhythm where I didn't need to know. Like I knew what I needed to know, and all the tricks that I was learning were related to Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Experience Cloud. But when I moved to being a solution engineer, it was like, okay, Dave, great. And now you have to know all these other clouds, and you have to be fully familiar with the App Exchange. And the way you used to give demos, that's not how you're going to give them now. Now we have to tell a story, and that's a whole separate skill. So like there was this crisis when I took over. I was like, wow, because I'm a process person. So I had this process for how I structured my workday, how I organized my tasks, and I had to throw it completely away, which is stressful for me, create a brand new one because the old way of working wasn't getting the job done. I couldn't couldn't take that information, all this information, and make use of it because it was just overwhelming. And so sitting down with myself and kind of figuring out how I could go through that and developing a new way to work and leveraging new tools was a stressful period, but ultimately was required. And then I'm going to call on Adam here, but then I've got a question for you, Jade, which relates to that kind of that transition period. Over to you, Adam.
If you're working in a consultancy firm right now, an SI, a partner, you might be demoing today to your customer. So your customer might want to look at Einstein bots, or they might want to look at Service Cloud or Sales Cloud. I posted a link in chat there to a post I did, I think about a year ago now, with some really cool 3-minute demos as well. So it's another resource for you. But yeah, if you might be doing that today. So that's a really good experience if you want to go into solution engineering, or if you want to go into, the not talked about Q branch that Jade currently works in today. So
yeah, no, thank you for that, Adam. Appreciate it. Craig asks, how's the work-life balance different? And I'll just, as a consultant, and again, this is my experience, there's so many different types of consulting firms out there and consultant roles. My experience was the work-life balance as a consultant was challenging because you have to support your customer 24/7 essentially. If you've got something in production and it breaks, then you're coming in at 8 p.m. at night to fix it, or you're coming on the weekend to do a go live. And so you're supposed to only bill 40 hours, but very frequently we were working 65 and billing 40. So it was challenging. And I find that, again, this is my personal experience as an SE, I'm better able to set my work-life balance. I can set boundaries on that and guardrails so that I'm not working 65-hour work weeks. And you can argue you can do that as a consultant too, right? I was new, so I didn't feel like I had that ability to do that, and that's probably bad on me. So I was working those extra hours to build my name, and I didn't want to tell people no. Iris, question or comment from you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, so just, Jade, you seem to do a lot. Like, you have this awesome role, you're mentoring, you're helping so many other platforms, like a lot of people on this platform know you from everything you do. How do you prioritize what you focus on and get everything in?
Oh, that's a good question. I may look like I have it all together, but that's not true. So I try to weekly figure out, okay, what should I prioritize this week? And, sometimes that changes, but I try to do the most important things. Like at work, I try to do the big things that will move the needle. There's all these small annoying things that used to bother me, but I just have to forget about them and just move the big things that I need to move at work. In my personal life, definitely mentoring. I like to help where I can. And because I do so much of that, I've been lagging in my certs. So I need to get back on the horse with my certs and all the things that I want to continue to learn. So I just want to say it might look like I have it all together and have it figured out. I don't. It's a week by week type of thing where I try to strategize and figure out what's most important this week.
Yeah, it's a great question, and Iris hit the nail on the head. That was ultimately what I was driving at, was those tips on how to manage a hectic work schedule when you're sort of responsible for knowing everything, because anyone can ask you a question about any one thing, and you have to be able to not necessarily know it in your brain, but be able to find the answer fairly quickly and get back to them. So it's a meta skill. It's a different type of skill that you have to develop. And so thanks for that question. We are just over time. So before we close, I want to thank Jade for spending the past hour with us to talk about what it's like to be a lead demo architect and all of the productivity and demo tools, and sharing her experience with us. Thanks so much, Jade.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. And thank you to all of you for joining us on your Wednesday evening. Hope you have a safe rest of your week and weekend, and we'll see you back here next week. Thanks, everyone.